My friend Aaron is getting into custom motorcycles and he recently asked me which tools I'd recommend for his first build. So here's a list of tools that will help you fabricate parts for your first custom motorcycle. Most projects start with taking some measurements and making a template. Some essentials for that are a digital caliper, I can't recommend this enough, a metal ruler and a pen. And then for actually making your template, you can either use CAD, cardboard aided design, or use my favorite, which are 1mm thick acrylic sheets. For more complex things, I prefer those over cardboard because you can see through them, you know exactly where things are, and if you bend them, they'll actually stay in place. Now, if you want to transfer your design onto metal, a rafter square and a scribe can be very handy. By the way, if you want to learn more about which metals you actually can use for your custom bike build or which are recommended, I've made a specific video about that I'm going to link you right here. The next step most often requires you to cut something. An angle grinder with 1mm thick cutting disc is perfect for that. And here you don't have to break the bank. Mine was $40 and it works great. And if you add some accessories like a grinding disc and flap discs are so handy. You can actually make very nice radiuses and some very good surface finishing. And speaking of grinding and surface finishing, a die grinder is so handy for tight corners and small parts. I got the 5102 Max from Ingersoll Rand and I love it. It is so nice, I use it almost every day. This one is more on the expensive side, but if you're just starting out, you don't have to go that expensive if you don't have the budget for it. You can probably find one that is a quarter of the price and also works great for the beginning. If you get a die grinder, I would recommend you to go with the Rollog system from 3M. I don't know if they've invented it, but they have a lot of discs for the Rollog system and they are, in my opinion, the ones that last the longest and have the best quality. The ones that I use the most are the 80 grit sanding discs and the red Scotch-Brite discs. The sanding discs are perfect for shaping your part and the Scotch-Brite discs make your part look so nice in the end. For both of them, you have to get these plastic support plates. And if you get the one that's actually for your grinding disc size and the one that is smaller, you can cut away the sides of the grinding disc and use the center before throwing it away. One little tip that will make your die grinder last so much longer is to oil it properly. I give it 3 drops of pneumatic oil every time I use it, and that will make it last for so much longer. For running your die grinder, you need compressed air. So I guess it's a good moment to speak about compressors. And there are so many different types of compressors. You can definitely break the bank because with a compressor, it's the bigger the better. The more air you get, the longer you can work with your tool. But for the start, I would suggest you go with a medium-sized one that actually has enough capacity to run your tools, but that also doesn't take up huge space in your workshop and doesn't cost you thousands of bucks. For reference, the one I have has a 3.8 horsepower oil-free engine, so you don't have to take care of it. It has a 50-liter tank, so it's not too big and can produce a maximum output pressure of 10 bar and a maximum flow rate of 420 liters per minute. That is enough to run the die grinder without any brakes. I'm sure you can use it for spray paint, and I've built a sandblasting cabinet, which I haven't tried yet, but from what I've heard, it's also strong enough for that. All right, back to the imaginary part that we're working on. If you want to put even finer details into your part, I would highly recommend you to get a set of good key files. Those are the small files that you get in very different shapes and you can use for nice details like these triangles that are put into the brake fluid reservoir bracket. And while we're at it, I would recommend you to also get a few big files. Go with the half flat, half round ones, there you get the best of both worlds and get 3 grades from rough to medium to fine, and then get 1 round file. Now that you have the part in the shape that you want, it's probably time to drill some holes. For that, I would recommend you 2 things. On the one hand, get a strong cordless drill like the DeWalt DCD999 that I have. That is the most powerful one that DeWalt offers. You don't have to go that strong. Somewhere in the middle is also fine because the stronger, the pricier. Where it doesn't really matter how much you spend is on the second thing, which is a drill press. Obviously, again, the bigger, the better, but you can get away with one that is second-hand. I got mine off eBay. You can look on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or wherever you find your good deals and go for one that is used. I paid 60 bucks for it and it works perfectly fine. You only have to check that the spindle doesn't have any play, and the more range it has, the bigger the parts that you can drill. But for the most part, you're gonna drill sheet metal, which is just a few millimeters high, so you don't really have to worry about that. Two accessories I would recommend you for these two tools. One is a good set of drills, and that is kind of obvious. And the other one is a high quality set of countersinks. With drills and countersinks, I would always go for high quality. If you buy cheap, you buy twice, and that is especially true for drills and countersinks. And if you don't want to screw your part onto your motorcycle, you might want to weld it onto your frame. Or you just want to build a more complex part, which I very well get, because once I learned how to TIG weld, it changed the whole game for me. In that case, I would recommend you a TIG welder, which is a good entry-level TIG welder. You don't have to go super fancy, but you also want to have a machine where you can know that if something goes wrong, it's not the machine. I'm gonna make a separate video about a proper beginner TIG welding setup, but for now, here are a few reference points for specs that you can look out for. I would go with a machine that can weld AC and DC, so you can weld aluminum and steel. The machine should also be capable to output around 200 amps. That's the sweet spot because you can still use your wall outlet, but you can also weld aluminum if you get the AC model or a little bit thicker steel. In addition, what's super beneficial is if you can hook up a foot pedal, so double check if the machine you want to buy has a connector for that. Two machines that are in that range and that will be a great option for your first custom bike build are the Everlast PowerTIG 185DV or the model one size bigger if you are in the US and Canada. I don't know if they sell worldwide. Or if you're in Europe, you can go with the one that I have, which is the Stahlwerk 200 ST IGBT. And until now, that works perfectly for me. The last tool that can be very handy, especially for your first custom bike build, is a 3D printer. If you want to see how I use it to make custom bike parts, watch this video next.